Hello everyone. Today we are here to study texture, pH, water holding capacity and moisture content of the soil. We are here in our bio laboratory of Radha Govind Senior Secondary Public School, Ramgarh Cant. So let's see what experiments we have to do. So the topic of today's experiment is related to soil practicals. So today back to back we'll do 4 experiments. First of all we'll see the soil texture, after that soil's pH, and third experiment we'll study and we'll see the soil's water holding capacity, and after that we'll go through the last experiment to see the soil moisture's content. Okay dear students, so let's start our experiments one by one. So first of all, the first experiment. Aim: to study the texture of soil sample. Okay, now the requirements. So let's see what are the materials required here for doing this experiment. So we will be needing soil sample, first of all a soil sample. After that a beaker, measuring cylinder, glass rod, spatula and a sheet of paper, that is optional here. We must know the principle. The soil texture is one of the most important physical characteristic of a soil, which is used to determine the type of soil based on its physical texture. The soil texture depends upon the proportion of the constituent particles of different size like sand, silt and clay. Now the procedure. So with the help of spatula, we have taken 2 or 3 tablespoons of soil sample in this sheet of paper. So we can touch with our hand and we can feel it and we can see the texture of the soil. So by just holding it in our hand, we can see the texture of the soil. It has sand, pebbles, clay. Okay, so after that what we'll do, you'll pour this amount of our soil sample into this measuring cylinder. We have put this content, the soil sample, inside this measuring cylinder like this, you can see here. After that we'll pour some water. We'll add some water near about 200 milliliter. So we have poured water here, and with the help of glass rod we can stir it like this. This is optional, we can do it like this also, or simply directly we can shake it properly upside down. We can shake this properly so that the soil get mixed well with this water like this. Now what we will do, after shaking it, we'll allow the soil particles to settle down. Minimum it will take 30 minutes to settle down. So after 30 minutes we'll see the observation. So after half an hour we can see here that all the soil particles have settled down. Now we'll record the thickness of each layer formed by different type of particles in the measuring cylinder. So let's go through our book here. Now you can see the texture of soil sample. First of all, you see at the bottom sand has settled down. Now after that the silt you can see here. After that the clay particles can be observed easily here. Now this is the water. This is our water, and on the top you can see a floating particles like this. This is our humus. So we can see here the heavy particles have settled down first and the lighter particles has settled down afterwards, and humus floats on the water surface like this. Okay dear students, so now it's time for the second experiment. Aim to study pH of different types of soil. Now the requirements of materials for doing this experiment. We require soil sample, beaker filled with water, test tube here, spatula, pH paper, universal indicator solution, and watch glass. If we talk about the principle, pH stands for power of hydrogen ion. It is defined as the negative logarithm of the activity of hydrogen ions in a solution. Soil pH is measure of the acidity or basicity of a soil. The fertility of soil is depend upon the pH of the soil. Acid soil have pH below 7 and alkaline soil have a pH above 7. Now the procedure. So we will take 1 tablespoon of soil from the soil sample. From both the soil we have taken the soil into our test tube with the help of spatula like this. After that 10 milliliter of water then added to the test tubes respectively. In both the test tube will add near about 10 milliliter of water. Now we have to mix the content thoroughly with the help of glass rod. This is optional. You can use the glass rod also, or directly we can shake the content. We can shake this test tube so that the content inside this could be mixed well thoroughly. We'll take the pH paper. We'll dip a small piece of pH paper in each test tube. In the both the test tube, we'll dip the pH paper, and after that we'll match the color of pH paper with the color given on the pH strip or the pH scale. There is one more either way or the alternative way of checking the pH of our soil sample. We'll pour the water from our test tubes into this watch glass like this. After that, we'll take the universal pH indicator solution here. With the help of dropper, we'll add 2 to 3 drops of this pH solution into our sample which we have taken in this watch glass. Now you can see the color change in both the samples. Now what we have to do, we'll take the pH strip and we'll try to match the color from this scale and we'll find the pH of both the sample. So you just match the color of the sample. It is near 7. So you can see here our first soil sample that the clay we have taken from our garden, that is having the neutral pH, but here in the sandy soil we have taken from our school playground. There you can see the pH is near 8. Means it is slightly basic. Now dear students, it's time for the third experiment. Aim to study the water holding capacity of different types of soil samples. Requirements for this experiment: we need soil samples, electronic balance, sheet of papers, spatula, measuring cylinder, beaker full of water, one more beaker to measure the water, filter paper, funnel. Principle of this experiment is that water holding capacity of the soil is the amount of water retained in the capillary space. Capillary space is the space between soil particles of the soil after the percolation of gravitational water into the deeper layer. So now the procedure. We will take 25 grams of soil from both the soil samples, and the measurement we will do with the help of this electronic balance. So here we have measured and obtained 25 grams of soil from both the soil samples. We'll take measuring cylinder, we'll put the funnel on the top of this measuring cylinder like this. After that, we'll take the filter paper, we'll fold it properly like this, and we'll make cone of it, and we'll keep that on that funnel. Here we have to find the water holding capacity of the soil. So if we'll directly keep the filter paper like this, then might these filter paper may absorb the water. So to check this, we'll put some water over the filter paper. We'll not pour all the water, but just we will slightly wet that filter paper. Finally, we will place the filter paper over the funnel. After that, we will take the soil sample, which we have measured 25 grams of soil sample, and we'll pour that over that filter paper like this. After that, we'll measure 50 milliliter of water in this beaker. So we have taken 50 milliliter of water. We will pour this water slowly over this soil. We'll wait for some time for the water to come down drop by drop here. After that, again we will pour some water onto it. Again we'll wait for some while, and we'll repeat this process. We'll also check that our all the soil particle should get the water properly. No soil particle should be left dry here. And after waiting for some time, we'll again put the rest of the water over this soil sample. All the 50 milliliter of water we have poured over this soil sample. We'll wait for some time and we'll do the observation here. Here in our experiment, we find that the filtrate water we get in the case of sandy soil is 40 milliliter. So initially we have poured 50 milliliter of water and we have got 40 milliliter of water. So here we can say the retained water in the soil is 10 milliliter of water. Same for the clay soil also, we can see the percolated water, the filtrate water we get here is 30 milliliter. So the retained water is 50 minus 30, that is 20 milliliter of water. Like this, we can calculate the water holding capacity of the soil in percentage. For this, we have to subtract the volume of water collected, that is 30 milliliter for clay soil and 40 milliliter for the sandy soil, from the volume of water poured, that is 50 milliliter of water, divided by the weight of soil in gram, that was 25 grams, into 100. After calculating this, we'll get the water holding capacity of the soil in percentage. After doing the calculation, we'll get the result. Sandy soil has very low water holding capacity, whereas clay soil have very high water holding capacity. It depends upon the space present between the soil particles. Finally, we are left with the last experiment of our today's practical class. Aim to estimate or to study the moisture content of the soil samples. Principle of the experiment. The moisture content of the soil is described as the ratio of the mass of water held in the soil to the dry soil. The mass of water is determined by the difference before and after drying the soil. Requirements for the experiment: soil sample, electronic balance, sheet of paper, tripod stand, wire gauze, burner or candle, matchstick, spatula and container. The procedure of the experiment: firstly, we will measure 25 grams of soil from each soil sample with the help of electronic balance. We'll prepare a setup like this with the help of burner, tripod stand and wire gauze. We'll put the container over the burner. We'll take our measured 25 grams of soil sample over the container. We'll place the soil over the container and then we'll heat it gently. We'll keep on agitating the soils with the help of spatula until it becomes dry. Usually it will take 10 to 15 minutes to completely dry. After that, we'll take the help of a holder and we'll keep our heated soil sample in one side of the table. We'll let it cool down for 5 to 10 minutes. After that, we will again weight the dry soil sample and record the weight of the dry soil sample. This is the final reading. The samples are now ready to be used to determine the moisture content of the soil. We have to calculate the two different readings to know the moisture content of the soil. So for sandy soil, we get 24.5 grams measurement after drying it. And if we will see for the clay soil, after drying it, we will get 23.5 grams of soil sample. Okay dear students, so like this we can find and we can calculate the percentage of moisture content. For that we have to know the weight of water or the moisture in gram, or we can say we have to find the difference between the initial reading and the final reading. So the initial reading is the initial weight of the soil in gram, that was 25 grams for both the soil sample. And the final weight of the soil in gram, or the final reading for the sandy soil, it was 24.5 grams, and for the clay soil it was 23.5 grams. So what we have to do to calculate the moisture content? We have to subtract the final reading from the initial reading by the weight of the soil, by the final weight of the soil into 100, and we'll get the result here. The sample where the difference of initial and final weight is larger indicates a higher moisture content, whereas the lower value means the moisture content is quite low. It means from the above observation, it is clear that the soil sample clay have higher moisture content, whereas the soil sample B, that was our sandy soil, has low moisture content. Dear students, I hope you have found today's experiment related to soil practicals very easy and very interesting. So, in our experiment, we finally studied the soil texture, soil pH, soil water holding capacity, and soil moisture content. Here we come to the end of our experiment. Today's experiment was performed by my very sincere student Akanksha Misra, Nidhi Kumari, Ritesh Kumar, Pooja Sharma, and Ranjit Kumar. Soil sample collection done by Ritesh Kumar, Ranjit Kumar, and Swarnim Swati of Class 12th Biology of Radha Govind Senior Secondary Public School, Ramgarh, Kant. My special thanks to Professor Amit Kumar. Thank you.